So that was wild. I appreciate everyone who was in my live stream today. In essence, the 2023 NBA trade deadline goes down as arguably the greatest NBA trade deadline of all time. And one of the biggest moves, if not the biggest move of the trade deadline, happened in the wee hours of the morning when Kevin Durant got traded to the Phoenix Suns, which I still can't believe. That was an absolute shocker. But another shocker, the Toronto Raptors ended up being buyers, not sellers, when it was heavily rumored that they would be a big player during the NBA trade deadline. The lone move made by the Raptors was them acquiring Jakob Poeltl from the San Antonio Spurs in exchange for Khem Birch, a 2024 first-round pick, which we learned later today is top 6 protected, which means if the Raptors end up with a high lottery pick next year, it'll go straight to the Spurs, along with 2023 and 2025 second-round picks. I thought the Raptors were going to have more moves up their sleeve after this, but nothing else happened. The Toronto Raptors, who were at the center of all trade talks for so many weeks, and who were in a position to make many big moves with the likes of Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, Gary Trent Jr., and even Pascal Siakam's name being thrown around, end up standing pat when it came to their core. Overall, I'm more confused than ever. This is my raw reaction to it all. Before we get into it, do me a solid favor, guys. Drop a like on the video. It helps it a ton. And please subscribe to the channel for more Raptors and NBA content. And real quick, about 96% of you are watching my videos but aren't subscribed. So if you guys can make sure you're subbed with post notifications turned on, that would be greatly appreciated. So yes, the Raptors trading for Jakob Poeltl makes sense from the standpoint that, yeah, the Raptors desperately needed a center. And it does make the Raptors better than they were yesterday. But this move doesn't move the needle, especially when this is the only move the Raptors ended up making. And the protection on the pick is only top 6. I didn't know that when the trade was first announced at 1 a.m. So if shit hits the fan next season, and let's just say the Raptors are a middling team, the Raptors could possibly end up giving away a high lottery pick, 7 through 14, for a guy who might not even be around past this summer. More on that later. So now when you look at the Raptors, who are keeping their core pieces intact, plus Jakob Poeltl, this team is too good to be a bad team. So you can throw the tank out the window and most likely a high draft pick for this year as well. Looking at the Raptors now, they are 26-30. They sit 10th in the Eastern Conference, but they're still 4.5 games back of 6th place for the final playoff spot. I can see the Raptors go on a run now. I can see them go on a big winning streak and get back into the playoff picture with this group, since they also do have the easiest remaining schedule. But when you look at the big picture, this team is still not good enough for contention and probably only have a second round ceiling. So essentially, the Raptors are still stuck in the middle. And now the Raptors have a ton of questions this offseason, as they got 3 unrestricted free agents in Gary Trent Jr., Fred VanVleet, and newly acquired Jakob Poeltl, who are all going to be looking for big paydays. In theory, the Raptors could lose all 3 of these players for nothing. Now, I would assume the Raptors have plans to bring back Poeltl since they just traded for him, but they will probably only keep one of Gary Trent Jr. or Fred VanVleet. I personally hope the Raptors keep Gary Trent Jr., as I can see Fred VanVleet wanting big money. But yeah, if the Raptors don't pull off some type of sign and trade, they could lose Fred now for nothing. Or if Gary Trent Jr. asks for more than the Raptors are willing to give him, then yeah, they could lose Gary Trent Jr. for nothing as well. Now, in terms of OG Anunoby, a good point was made on ESPN that packages will still be there for him this summer if the Raptors are still keen on moving him. And I guess the same goes for Pascal Siakam if the Raptors decide to entertain that as well. Now the Raptors have a decision to make. Who comes off the bench? As you got 6 guys who can start. Are you going to bench Gary Trent Jr.? Are you going to bench Scottie Barnes? You're not going to bench Jakob Poeltl. You just traded for him. You're not going to bench Fred VanVleet or Gary Trent Jr. Or are you going to bench OG? So what happens with the starting lineup now? Also, what happens to Scottie Barnes' development? Or even Precious Achiuwa's development? Will that get lost in all of this? But who knows? Maybe the Raptors prove me wrong and everyone who agrees with me wrong. Maybe Masai has a bigger plan for this summer. We'll see what happens when it's all said and done. But what do you make of what the Raptors did at the NBA trade deadline. Do you think the Raptors dropped the ball, or do you think they did well by running it back with this group and trading for a guy like Jakob Poeltl? Let me know your full thoughts in the comment section down below. I read all of them. And look, I'm not trying to be pessimistic here. I'm just trying to be a realist. I always give you guys my honest take of how I see things. And after going through everything, I think the Toronto Raptors were better suited doing something else. Obviously, that is not the direction the front office took. Maybe they know something we don't know. Maybe they didn't get a deal that was enticing enough, but all I know is this: there were a ton of teams making moves at the trade deadline, and the Western Conference in particular was a Western Conference that got very aggressive. I'm very surprised that a team like the Warriors, the Pelicans, the Grizzlies, who didn't do anything, didn't wow the Raptors with a package for OG Anunoby, especially with everybody in the Western Conference getting better, or a team didn't wow the Raptors with a package for a Fred VanVleet. So again, you don't know what goes on behind the scenes. I know Masai Ujiri spoke to the press. I didn't watch the video yet, and I think I saw a quote that he didn't see a blockbuster move that was enticing enough for him to make. But overall, I mean, you just look at what some of these other teams were able to do, like Rob Pelinka, what he was able to do with the Lakers situation. I really thought this was going to be an opportune time for the Raptors to get what they wanted at a trade deadline that were going to have a lot of buyers. And we saw a ton of teams got aggressive. And obviously the Raptors, who were set to have core pieces that were going to dictate the NBA trade deadline, none of those core pieces end up getting traded. So we'll see what happens. But that is it for Trade Talk, guys. That is it. We're not going to be talking about trades anymore. The next time we reevaluate everything with this Raptors team will be in the summer. We'll see how the Raptors play in the second half of the season post-deadline. Is this a team that can now get back into the playoff picture? Is this a team that can get out of the play-in? As Masai famously said, playing for what? Can the Raptors get themselves in a top 6 spot? And can the Raptors make things interesting? We'll see. And yeah, we'll be back here in the summer, as the Raptors are going to have some interesting things to address in the summer. So it could be a matter of just the Raptors putting things off and waiting for the summer to make some of the more important decisions. But as I said earlier, the Raptors are in a position where they could lose some of their key guys for nothing. That would definitely sting looking back at it all. So that is it for me, guys. That is just my 2 cents. Let me know your thoughts of the deadline as it pertains to the Toronto Raptors. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, plus ring the bell for more. This is Lucas signing off. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all again in the next video.